Emilie locks up the clinic for the day and starts heading towards the bus stop. It had been a busy day at the clinic, and she couldn't wait to get home. She didn't mind it being busy and helping people. She just wished so many people weren't in need for the care they provided. As she rounds the corner of the block, a guy steps out of the alley. He didn't look like he had much business being down there. He wasn't dirty and shaggy like most of the homeless guys who hung around the area. He mumbled something to her as she walked by, but she didn't pay him much mind and quickened her pace to the bus stop. She really didn't want to be hassled by someone while waiting for the bus. A few weeks ago, a homeless guy sat next to her on the bench while waiting. He was telling her about a pet turtle he kept in a jar with his belongings in a cart. She didn't know what was in the jar, but it was dark green, and if he opened it, she knew some unknown toxic waste would probably ooze out and dissolve anything it touched. Emilie was about half a block away from the bus stop when she felt someone grab her waist and a hand go across her mouth. Before she knew it, she was pulled into a side alley and slammed against a wall behind a trash can. "You make any sound, and I swear to God, I'll snap your little neck. You hear me?" She could tell by the voice it was the same guy who saw her outside the clinic. He turns her around and pushes one of his hands between her shoulder blades, keeping her chest pinned against the wall. With his other hand, he grabs her bag and tosses it on top of the dumpster to rummage through it. "Hey, man, that's no way to treat a lady, man." The voice comes from a homeless man walking up to the burning barrel to warm his hands. "Mind your damn business," said the mugger, pulling a small pistol from his belt. The homeless man turns and limps away, not wanting any trouble. "Well, now that we got a little privacy," he says, running his hand up her shirt, "let's see if you're hiding any goods from me." He spins her around and slams her back against the wall. "Hey," another voice calls out. "Let her go. Now." "Who the hell are you?" asked the mugger as he points his gun at the man. "I said, let her go." The mugger pushes Emilie to the side forcefully. She loses her balance and falls against the burning barrel, knocking it down and hitting her head on the corner of the building as she falls. She feels herself losing consciousness, but catches a small glimpse of her would-be hero stepping towards her attacker. And then something happened that she wasn't sure about. The stranger approaches the mugger, whose eyes widen. Hey man, I'm sorry, okay?" He backs away from the vigilante and lets off a gunshot. It does nothing. The unknown man grabs the hand holding the pistol and it starts to burn. "Time to pay for your sins." She couldn't remember much after blacking out. She remembered the man who intervened asking if she needed to go to the hospital. He went into her purse and grabbed her ID to get her address and take her home. By that time, she was gaining more consciousness, but had a massive headache. She dozed back off on her couch shortly after he got her in the house. The next day, she calls into work to let them know she's going to be a little late. She jumps into the shower and thinks back to everything that happened the evening before. While getting off the bus, she spots a black muscle car that looks like the one that took her home. She crosses the street and walks over to Canelo's auto shop. "Can I help you?" says Canelo, the owner. "Maybe. I was looking for someone I think works here. He gave me a ride home yesterday, and I forgot to say thank you." She pauses, realizing she never got his name. He drives the black Charger out front." "Robbie!" he yells into the auto bay. A young Hispanic guy comes walking into the lobby, wiping grease off his hands. "You have a visitor. And she's pretty," he whispers to him while giving him a nudge. "Hi," she says, not really knowing what she had planned to say. "I saw your car outside and just wanted to thank you for yesterday." "It's no problem. I'm glad I was there to help." He looks down at his hands while nervously messing with his rag. "You're not what I expected," she starts to say. "I'm sorry?" he asks confused. "Before I blacked out, I saw you. You're the inhuman they call the Ghost Rider." He pauses and gets a little defensive. I'm not an inhuman. But I know how you might get it confused considering you're one yourself. Excuse me? I mean, when I went to grab you, you were covered in ash from that barrel. You didn't have so much as a blister on you. I picked you up, carried you to my car, expecting to have to rush you to the emergency room. They stand there in silence for a moment. I have to get to work. Thanks again. She walks out quickly and heads back down the block to the clinic. About 2 hours into her shift, her manager calls her away from stocking supplies to say she has a visitor. Emilie looks at her confused and walks up to the counter to see Robbie. Hi, she says, unsure as to why he's there. I was thinking after you left, I think that conversation we had could have gone a little better. I was wondering if you hadn't had lunch yet, maybe we could grab something. Yeah, sure. Did you have somewhere in mind? There's a little diner a couple blocks down, if that's cool. Yeah, just give me 5 minutes to situate what I was doing. I'll be out. She meets him outside a few minutes later, and they walk down to the diner. My name is Robbie, by the way, he says, holding out his hand. Emilie, she replies with a handshake. The walk to the diner was awkward, and neither of them spoke. The diner wasn't too busy, and they were seated immediately. After they ordered their food, they looked out the window of the table they were seated at. Well, this conversation isn't going much better than the last one, Emilie points out. Robbie crosses his hands on the table and looks down at them. Yeah, I know. I was kind of just winging it. Not too many people know who I am. I've done a pretty good job keeping it on the down low. That's understandable. It's dangerous being an inhuman, especially right now. That's just it. What I am is not inhuman. It's supernatural. The server brings them their food. What about you? He asks curiously. I don't know what I am or how long I've been this way. I just know I'm fireproof. I'd say maybe you're in the wrong profession. Maybe you should be a firefighter instead of working at that clinic, he jokes. She smiles. It's not too bad there. Gets busy and hectic some days. And on occasion, you have that creep or two that comes in trying to get a quick fix. But I like it. I get to make a positive change in people's lives. I know it's cheesy. No, it's a good thing. They need more people like you in the world that want to make a difference because it's the right thing to do. They finish eating and Robbie walks Emilie back to the clinic. I'd appreciate you not saying anything about me to anyone, he says. Same. Emilie and one of her coworkers stay late at the clinic that night doing inventory. It's dark by the time they lock up, and Emilie heads over to the bus stop. When she gets there, she sits on a bench. A few minutes later, she hears a whistle from across the street. She looks over to see Robbie. Need a ride? Nah, I'm good. It's no trouble. I'm locking up now. I can have you home before the bus even makes it back. She thinks it over for a second. It's not like he's some creep, and it had been a long night. If it's not too out of your way, nah, I gotta go in that direction anyway. She walks across the street to his car, and he opens the door for her to get in. He throws a bag in the trunk and then gets in himself. They small talk a little on their way to her house, trying to keep the ride from getting awkward. I was a little nervous about leaving you yesterday after you hit your head. You stay by yourself? He asked. Yep, just me. I don't have any living relatives. You? I got a brother, younger, named Gabe. Does he know about me being the ghostwriter? Nah. We've been through a lot. Last thing I want him to know is who I am and what I do. There are worse things you could be. Like what? Well, you could be running around in spandex and a cape, she jokes, and he cracks a smile. They pull up to her house, and she thanks him for the ride. It's no problem. Like I said, I come this way myself. If you ever need a ride, you can just hit me up. And how do I do that? You read thoughts too, or do I call you via Ouija board? She says with a smile. He laughs. Or just shoot me a text. Was that your plan to get my number? She asked as she hands him her phone. I didn't plan any of this, actually, and I haven't needed to use a pickup line in a while. Oh, so girls dig the whole flaming head, huh? He blushes. Nah, nothing like that. It's just a little complicated with me. He hands her back her phone, tells her goodnight, and watches her walk inside. Once in the house, she hears him drive off. She looks down at her phone and sees his name with a fire and skull emoji next to it, followed by his number. She sends him a text so he can save hers. What are you doing, man? Robbie asks himself on his way home. You up here flirting and getting numbers like you ain't already got a full plate. He pulls up to his house and sits in the car for a few minutes thinking. He checks his phone and saves her number.